You're listening to Side by Side with Kathy Wilson. Episode 26, Anything for a Doughnut. So, Kathy, can you tell me why you are taking part in the Walk for Dog Guides this morning? Here we were, right beside the St. Catherine's Museum, getting ready to hike 10 kilometers, and the reason seemed pretty obvious to me, but not to the reporter who was interviewing Hickory and I. My answer was simple. We had collected almost $1,000 in pledges for our school, and this walk demonstrated my commitment to the Lions Foundation's purpose to provide a dog guide for those who needed one. There are many people who have serious vision problems, yet only a small percentage of these people understand the freedom that comes when you partner with a guide dog. Since Hickory and I joined forces, I have been spared fear and the sense of feeling alone. We can't do much ourselves, but Hickory and I can walk for the school so that others will find a better life too. Oh yes, my name is Kat. Kathy has been relegated to the discard pile. This cat is free to be, thanks to my Hickory. Hickory eyed all of the dogs in our vicinity. Several of them voiced various opinions, but Hickory is more of a listener. She keeps her ideas under wraps until she is ready to act on them. The reporter looked around us and noted that the walk was about to begin. Would you and Hickory remain for some pictures after the walk? My photographer isn't here yet. I hope your dog will be able to sit still for a picture. She was noting Hickory's obvious restlessness. Yes, she will cooperate with your photographer, but I get antsy when it takes too long. Don't worry, just a snap and it's done. I'll see you after the walk. The Meriton Lions were sponsoring this walk, and we were all being organized behind some imaginary line on the pavement. Our walk followed the Welland Canal and was free of most traffic, other than skateboarders and bicycles. Those taking part in the walk were on foot, some 2, the rest 4. Hickory was interested in a white standard poodle standing a few feet from us. Apparently he had an itchy ear since he was giving it a determined scratch. His owner, dressed in shocking pink shorts and beige t-shirt, had something to say about this behavior. "Frosty, stop that! You just had your hair done, and your nails too. Don't mess up. The press is here taking pictures." To our right, not far from the canal bank, was an eager golden retriever, impatient to explore the surroundings and not impressed with just standing around. Hickory was of the same mind, but not everybody was ready to begin. So wait we must. At that moment the golden gave an extra sharp tug and made her escape. Her owner bounded after her. Hickory and I both chuckled. Goldie knew what she wanted and got it. Her walk had already begun. "Let's go, crazy cat. What are we standing around here for?" The organizers were tabulating information from everybody's pledge forms. Some people came late, delaying our start and adding more drawn brows and barks to the picture. There were dogs of many breeds and sizes. Colors formed a varied hue in the canine paint box, but Hickory now seemed mesmerized by a very tiny dog, which turned out to be a teacup chihuahua. "Is this a squirrel?" "It doesn't smell like a squirrel." "It's not a rabbit. The ears are all wrong for a rabbit." "Maybe it's a piglet." No, I think it's a guinea pig, like in the pet store. Can we have one of those? Sure, Hick, why not? We'll get a guinea pig right after we buy the monkey. When we visited the Toronto Zoo, Hickory had been fascinated by the monkeys and couldn't tear herself away from their enclosure. I certainly appreciated her interest, as they were totally entertaining with their tumbles and acrobatics. Still, something told me that Ralph would have strong objections to monkeys, guinea pigs, and definitely chihuahuas. I could hear him astride his high horse, sounding annoyed and impervious to my pleadings. This is not a circus, nor an animal shelter. Hickory is quite enough. Of course, there would be no mention of Ralph's cat, Panda. The sound of the starting whistle seemed an anticlimax after our extended wait, but everyone was eager to get going, especially our dogs. This walk began with a downhill plunge, and my girl tackled it at full speed. She passed several walkers as though they were napping and pressed her pace from rapid into breakneck speed. Had you bothered listening to things at this moment, you would have heard Crazy Cat yelling, "Hey, not so fast, we have to go 10Ks, you know." If Hickory had spared the time and breath, she would have called, "Come on, Cat, you've got to move it along or we'll come in last. Don't lag or I'll have to drag you." We zipped by a Dalmatian who didn't want to be passed, and then we said goodbye to a couple ambling along with their fox terrier. They were just enjoying the walk, and I thought this was very nice. A slow walk and listening to the birds chirping would be a perfect outing for me. Not for Hickory. She found a new surge of energy from somewhere and galloped around the next corner. "Cat, pick up your speed. You can hear the birds and still go a lot faster than this. There's a Doberman and a Whippet just ahead of us." "So long, Mr. Doberman." "Adieu, little Whippet." Hickory had some difficulty with the Whippet, but managed to leave her behind because her owner was not in favor of racing and just dug in her heels. My Hick is stronger than I am, and a bit more stubborn, if that is possible, so it was not as easy for me to apply the brakes. We had been moving along quite well, and had passed nobody, so this seemed to indicate to me that Hickory was out in front. But she wasn't tempted to cut her speed, even a fraction, and I was now feeling every day of my 50 years. "Hickory, slow down. Remember you're guiding a girl well into her dotage." "Oh, Cat, you passed dotage long ago. If you don't move it, old age is going to catch you." I calculated that we must have been pretty close to the halfway point when we approached a golden retriever with her pal in a resigned jog. "This is it, Cat. We passed Goldie and we're out front. Let's go." Oh no, I was in no shape for a sprint at this point. But Hickory surged forward, and from somewhere I found the energy to hang on to the harness. "Crap in a teapot, Hickory! This is a walk, not a blasted race. Chew my dust, Goldie. Clear sailing now." Couldn't believe it. Hickory was bragging. It seemed an excellent opportunity to rest when we reached the halfway mark. Waiting with welcome was a race official. No, I mean a walk official. He took down our names while Hickory drank a full tank of water. I gratefully accepted a water bottle. It was then that my dog decided it was time to go. The return trip was underway before I even had time to tie my shoes. She gave me a warning bark and we were off. Once again, we zipped past Goldie coming towards us. That explained why my Olympic champ had resumed the walk so quickly. Hickory did not want to lose her lead. Thus, Hickory's race continued as we passed more and more walkers coming towards us. Some called out asking if the halfway point was far ahead. I always replied, "No, not too far." Somewhere along the route, my girl's tail started to wag. She was anticipating a wonderful victory, complete with treats and lots of praise. I'd be lucky to survive this marathon, so she better not expect any congratulations from me. I knew that Hickory and I were nearly at the end of our walk when I felt my feet on an incline. This was the hill that provided our initial momentum at the beginning of our walk while we stampeded downhill. And now, of course, it was an uphill climb. "Hick, there's no way I can run up this blasted hill." I could feel Hickory turning her head through the harness, and she eased the pace. That hill must have gained height and steepness in the time it took us to do that walk. This must be Mount Kilimanjaro, Mount Fuji, or even Everest herself. But we made it to the crest, and at last to the museum where our walk had started. "You're first back! Congratulations! You must have run the entire distance." "Almost." Hickory allowed me a short rest for a drink, and then we headed back after another bottle of water for me and a full bowl for Hick. I spotted a tray of Tim Horton doughnuts in assorted flavors. What a perfect treat! How many was permitted before people labeled me a greedy pig? Hickory received a bag of treats and a rawhide chewy. This tantalizing prize rated pretty high in my partner's mind. We located a shady maple nearby, and I settled on the ground with my Boston cream, glazed Dutchie, topped by a large black coffee. None of these calories counted. Dear Hick had seen to that. My girl was chewing with gusto on her rawhide. If the crunches Hickory was producing were musical notes, we would have been hearing a vibrant symphony. For most of us, the imagination just doesn't stretch quite that far. I didn't care. Hick could have been clashing the cymbals, and my journey into a catnap would not have been impeded. The approach of two people in our direction brought my siesta to an abrupt halt. Who were they? What do they want? "Hello, I'm back. The photographer is here too. Do you mind posing for that picture? I had forgotten about the photo." "Oh, well, this will only take a second and then we can resume our spot. Hope nobody else grabs it." "Yes, that's fine. Where do you want Hickory and I to stand?" "Just over here beside the canal. That will make a good background." This guy knew what made a good picture, but I could sense that Hickory was making her plans. I knew I needed to be on high alert. We stood together beside the canal and the photographer lined up his shot. "What's your dog got in her mouth? That won't make a good photo. Could you take it from her, if you can?" Hickory did not want to relinquish her rawhide to me, or anyone else, but gave in at last. Who could blame her? Had someone attempted to steal my doughnut, I would have growled at least. As I took away her treat, I promised my partner she could have it right back. "Well, don't give it to that guy. Remember, it's mine." There we stood, side by side as we so often do. The guy with the camera continued to study the picture he was about to take. "This isn't quite the photo I want. Would you kneel beside Hickory and give her a hug? Just think, she took you on that walk safely without mistake or mishap. She followed your every command. I got the idea and released the harness as I lowered myself to the ground. Every muscle was complaining. This was taking a lot longer than I thought it would. Hickory continued to glance around, gazing at the canal and the other dogs as they reached the finish line. I think she would have taken great delight in informing everyone that she was number one. At least, this is what I imagined was on her mind. But how wrong I was! Just as I was encircling my partner's neck for a big thank you embrace, there came a loud quacking sound from the canal just below us. Hickory wriggled out of my hug and bounded down the bank of the canal. With a wild and glorious splash she was in, and the mallards were flying in all directions. There's nothing like a cooling plunge at the break of day or after a long race. As far as Hickory was concerned, this was a perfect ending to her first place finish. The photographer laughed and took a picture of Hickory's splashing great time. I started to go down the bank to retrieve my very soggy mutt. No, Kathy, stay there. I'll get her for you. You could fall in. Thank you, but she is going to get you wet. That's okay. We'll both be cooler. This kind lion member could well be in for a swim, but didn't seem to mind. Once more, with Hickory restored to my side, I gave her an affectionate hug while the photographer took the picture. You know, I really think the photo of your dog in a canal would be good. Too bad I didn't get the ducks too. Do you mind if I use that one? Ordinarily that would be fine, but I think it would be better if the harness was more visible because the walk is for dog guides after all. Having fun in the canal is funny, but doesn't tell the real story. When Ralph arrived to pick me up, he studied my wet canine. Looks like she wanted a swim. When I was a kid, I used to swim in the canal a lot. She couldn't resist the chance to make friends with the ducks. Fortunately, she did leave some of the water in the canal. On the way home, I considered this our first walk for dog guides. The distance we had covered was the longest walk we had ever accomplished. There had been well over 30 dogs with their people, so many distractions. I realized that as senior partner, I had lost control of Hickory more than once, but she had carried on with her duty. I would need to do better. On the other hand, she took me from start to finish with no mishaps. She had been wonderful, and I would learn. Oh, yes, one way or another, Hickory would teach me, and I would learn. As Ralph turned our Mazda onto Wembley, he glanced in my direction. That was a long walk you were on. You must really need a pick-me-up. Shall we stop for a coffee and donut? That would be perfect. Hickory ran my butt off and breakfast was a long time ago. She decided it was a race and made sure she placed first. That's Hickory number one all the way. You're going to need at least 2 donuts after that. Don't forget my coffee. Can't enjoy a Long John without my coffee. Strong and black.